Coming up on today's show, we are talking day one takeaways from the Jaguars' first training camp practice ahead of the 2026 NFL season. But before we get into it, guys, if you're excited the Jaguars are back at training camp, we're finally getting some news in terms of actual updates around your Jacksonville Jaguars. Consider hitting that like button on today's show. We're shooting for 100 likes. Can we get there? I believe in everybody at Duval County. Hit that like button, and let's get into today's show. You're watching Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Make sure you use code HMA to get or potentially $150 if you win your first $5 lineup. Guys, training camp is here, and I'm so excited to be talking some actual football here with you guys as we get closer to the start of the 2026 NFL season. And the biggest takeaway, I don't even think it's really a debate, to be honest, from day one, Travis Hunter is back. And not just like, oh, he was out there and he kind of participated in some positional drills. No, he was out there participating not only positional drills, but also working in an 11 on 11 and 7 on 7 drills with both wide receivers and cornerbacks. You can see this photo of him here on your screen. And yeah, Travis Hunter worked with both cornerbacks and wide receivers, as we'll talk about here in just a second. But there was kind of some concern, hey, were the Jaguars going to kind of wait to ramp Travis Hunter up as we get closer into the season? But no, the Jaguars kind of threw him right out there, and he was providing good energy. He thought made a couple of decent plays out there today. And even Liam Cohen had a comment on a pass that didn't connect between Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter early on in practice, in which Travis Hunter kind of went up for a ball. It was kind of toughly contested by, I believe it was either Caleb Renshaw or Eric Murray, but Cohen was happy that Hunter was not afraid to go attack the ball, saying, I was pleased to see him go up with no fear. And that's always something you kind of worry about with, right? Where guys are coming back from a knee injury and you don't necessarily know if they're going to have their confidence back right away. Well, Travis Hunter, apparently, according to all reports and everyone that had boots on the ground, said that Travis Hunter was confident. He felt really explosive as he was in his rookie year, and he even got up a little bit stronger in terms of being able to put on more muscle ahead of the season. So a lot of positive signs from Travis Hunter. And we're really you want to know how I know we're really back? Travis Hunter snap counts are here during training camp. I mean, shout out to Michael Duraco, who does cover the Jaguars for ESPN. He had this tweet, and I even quote tweeted it saying that we are officially back with Travis Hunter's snap tracker is back for training camp, tracking on 11-11 for this year. Day one, he had 12 total snaps, 8 on defense, 4 on offense, had a pass breakup, and was targeted once. And I know they're going to probably kind of mix and match going forward. Some days he'll have more offensive snaps. Some days he might have more defensive snaps. Some days it might be more in between. But I hope these are the splits that we see from Travis Hunter once we get into the actual season. Like if we get every 2 defensive snaps for every 1 offensive snap, I think it's better for the Jaguars moving forward. Like we've talked about it ad nauseum, the amount of need and more pressing need at the cornerback position versus the wide receiver position. That's not to say Travis Hunter can't contribute on the offensive side of the ball, but I think for the success of this team moving forward, I hope that it's more of a 2-1 like we saw in practice today. And overall, I'm just happy that Travis Hunter is back and looking healthier than ever. Unfortunately, that cannot be said about the same in terms of Jack Kaiser, who unfortunately was injured on the 4th play of practice today. Michael Duraco had this to say on Jack Kaiser, who was hurt on 11-11 drills, will have an MRI tonight to determine the severity of his injury. Kaiser grabbed his right knee when he was on the ground. I believe it was a run play. He was defending against Bhayshul Tuten. He unfortunately went down with a knee injury. He was able to walk off, although it was pretty gingerly from reports. And Cohen had this to say also on Jack Kaiser, that it'll be shorter than longer in terms of hoping that his recovery won't last as long. But this is kind of an annoying blow for the Jacksonville Jaguars as, they get into this training camp period and get into preseason. They're really evaluating all these linebackers and who is going to potentially start opposite of Foye Oluokun. I would still say Ventrell Miller is the odds-on favorite to be the starter alongside Oluokun, but Jack Kaiser, Branson Combs, even McLeod, I think, could have a potential argument as beating that second off-ball linebacker next to Foye. And, for Kaiser to have this injury, and not just for his sake, but also the Jaguars' sake, I hope he does get healthy and he's able to kind of put his best foot forward, because I was interested to see what he would look like, obviously being a former 4th-round draft pick from 2025. And I thought this could be a golden opportunity for him to really kind of showcase his stuff along with Ventrell Miller and just have the best man win. But ultimately, it did not work out for him today, and hopefully he gets recovered here soon in terms of his health and that knee injury isn't as long as initially feared. So, coming up, more takeaways from day one of training camp, but we would not be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Baseball is well underway, along with a ton of other sports that you can cash in with on Prize Picks. Football is right around the corner, guys. So make sure you lock in with Prize Picks as it's the best place to win cash while watching sports. You can choose from numerous stat projections on Prize Picks, including passing yards, touchdowns, points, assists, hits, strikeouts, home runs, whatever the case may be. And it's available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Including, if you want to play some money on the W, we've got a 3-player lineup for tonight's action. Shout out to my guy, Harrison Graham, for cooking up this lineup. Angel Reese, giving them more on the points, rebounds, and assists. AZ Fudd, points and rebounds, excuse me. Yeah, points, rebounds. We've got AZ Fudd, more on the 1.5 3-pointers made for AZ Fudd. And then Paige Becker's more on the 19.5 points. That is a $10 lineup to win 32.5 on this lineup. And that's 3 Goblins as well, which they lower the potential payout, but they are easier to hit with our friends over at Prize Picks. New user offer. Play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win that initial lineup. Just use code HMA when you get sign up. That's right. Prize Picks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today. All right, getting into the rest of today's show in terms of the running back position, where a couple of different storylines that I wanted to talk at once here, and that is Bhayshul Tuten. He's been turning heads at Jaguars training camp, and Chris Rodriguez made his anticipated return coming off that foot injury that he suffered early on in the offseason program. But let's start with Bhayshul Tuten, and more specifically, just how impressive he's looked today in the first day of training camp. John Shipley, who does a great job of covering the Jaguars for Sports Illustrated, he had this to say on Bhayshul Tuten. Tuten was the most impressive offensive player of the entire day. He produced several big runs and showed the same exciting traits that made him look like an ascending player this spring. And at least as of this current moment, it does feel like Bhayshul Tuten has the advantage to be the Jaguars' RB1, at least at the start of the season, and, could be for the entirety of the season, because he has that big play ability. If he can improve, in the pass protection department as well as the pass catching department, to me, like, there's really no holes in his game, because he's not afraid to run in between the tackles. Although when you get him out in space, that's when he's the most dangerous. He actually was a really productive running back in the red zone this past season. So if Bhayshul Tuten continues to put these good performances together, take it from Liam Cohen, who talked about it a few days ago on the Peter Schrager podcast. Like, we're expecting big things when it comes to Bhayshul Tuten. I'm seeing that from all the reporters on the ground today. And I am buying stock in Bhayshul Tuten going into the 2026 NFL season. It was also a good day for Chris Rodriguez, who he had been cleared and will do individual work today per Ryan O'Halloran. The team will ramp him up. So no team work initially. Same for Christian Braswell. So that's also a good note for Braswell, who's dealing also with a lower leg injury as well. This I thought was a really interesting quote from Liam Cohen on Chris Rodriguez when in terms of talking about him to reporters after the Jaguars practice period. Quote, he's a glass eater. I mean, if you don't love hearing that about your running back, to me, like, that's just something that is only going to fire Jaguars fans up, because you kind of need that power and physicality to complement Bhayshul Tuten, in my opinion. And look, it's no secret that the Jaguars are going into this upcoming season with not a lot of proven commodities at the running back position, right? Because Bhayshul Tuten last year was splitting time with Travis Etienne in Jacksonville before now he heads to New Orleans. And Chris Rodriguez was part of a committee backfield with the Washington Commanders. And between the two of them, they barely combined for 200 carries last season, only a little over 800 yards and 11 touchdowns, which that's not to say that they don't have redeeming qualities, and especially given more of a heavier workload, that these two can't produce at a higher level. But there are some question marks in terms of what level of running back play the Jaguars are going to get this season. I'm, though, very confident in both Bhayshul Tuten and Chris Rodriguez. The question really is, how is that split going to look? Who is going to get the bulk of the carries? Who's going to get the lion's share of the workload? To me, if I had to lean right now, I'd go with Bhayshul Tuten, but make no mistake about it, Chris Rodriguez Jr. is going to have a role in this offense. I want to turn it over to you guys. Who will be the Jaguars running back one for this upcoming season? Type BT if you think it's Bhayshul Tuten, or type CR if you think it's Chris Rodriguez. Let me know down in the comment section. Getting into the final day one takeaway of the day for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and It was pretty simply that defense won the day. It wasn't a clean day from the offensive operation, and it's not to say that, the defense won't be good for Jacksonville and the offense won't be good in terms of days, in terms of who will win each day. But if it came down to training camp and just saying, who had the better day, it was the defense. Ryan O'Halloran again had this to say on Trevor Lawrence, who I thought kind of summarized the offensive world production. It was tough sledding for Lawrence, who had one completion during his 11 on 11 snaps, was intercepted on his first throw of the 7-on-7 period. He also threw high and incomplete to an open Tanner Koziol down the left seam. And it wasn't just Trevor Lawrence who was off in terms of his performance today. I think Jacoby Myers also had a drop today. There was plenty of other receivers that had chances to make contested catches, but didn't quite, come down with the certain plays that they would expect it to make. And it wouldn't shock me literally if the next practice the offense looks like they were the second half version of themselves. But it's training camp, right? You're going to try things. You're going to try to, knock off the rust going from the one part of the offseason period to the other. So it's completely normal, right, to not be firing on all cylinders. And while, it is a good showing from the defense that there was competitive, there was a lot of good reports, not only from Travis Hunter's perspective, but Caleb Ransaw made a couple big plays. I think Eric Murray had an interception we talked about earlier on in the video. Jabbar Muhammad still looks really good, the undrafted free agent who's pushing for roster spots. So you'll have these days, right? Offense wins some, defense wins some, but today it was definitely a day for the defense. That'll conclude today's episode of Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends at Prize Picks. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We've got you guys covered throughout training camp, into the preseason, and of course, when football is officially back, we've got you covered. So hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications for all things Jacksonville Jaguars. And until next time, guys, peace out.